Annual reports are documents designed to tell the story of a company over the past year. Traditionally, they include a message from the president or chairman, financial income and expenditures, projects planned and completed, as well as strategies for future accomplishments.
Hello, I'm Betty Hollister, Public Information Manager with the Regional Flood Control District, and welcome to another edition of the Flood Channel. Every year, the district publishes its own annual report to let you know the job we've done so far and the work we still have left to do. However, we realize that you have very busy lives, and sitting down to read our report cover to cover probably isn't very practical. So to make sure that we cut through the clutter, we thought it would be a great idea to create our own visual presentation of our annual report on this edition of the Flood Channel.
We're very unique at Regional Flood Control because, like many of the agencies that have been formed since our district was created, the regional approach has proven to be so successful, where floodwaters know no jurisdictional boundaries. They don't know the unincorporated county from Henderson or Las Vegas, and the ability for Bruce Woodbury and some other leaders to come together and create this regional board. So we eliminated jurisdictional boundaries and built the infrastructure valley-wide to protect all citizens.
Well, a lot of people that move to the desert, to Las Vegas Valley, don't realize that it can rain here. They think they're in a desert. It doesn't rain here. It doesn't rain very often. There's only 15 or so days of rain per year. But when it does rain, it rains hard and it runs off fast and it gets deep fast. So having a good system to convey that flow through the urbanized areas and keep people safe is very important.
And we're the most arid metropolitan area in the country, less than 4 inches of rain a year. And yet, when we do get rain, the desert storms and the flash flooding wreak havoc on our community. And the critical need to protect not only people but property is the reason why the district was created. There were some devastating floods in southern Nevada in the early 80s. And in 1983, we approached the state legislature as far as the creation of a flood district. And surprisingly, we were turned down because that perception of the need, why do we need it here in the driest part of our country?
In 1985, the laws were changed that allowed the creation of a regional flood control district. And to date, we are the only ones in the state of Nevada.
And we're unique also because we're a small organization. The member agencies that sit on the Flood Control District Board of Directors, it's the City of Mesquite, City of Boulder City, City of Henderson, City of North Las Vegas, City of Las Vegas, and Clark County. These member agencies come and partner with the flood district staff. So we've been able to keep it very small, very efficient, and use the relationships with our member agencies to be not only productive in building this system, but efficient with the taxpayer dollars.
The law also created a Citizens Advisory Committee and Technical Advisory Committee. So every item that our Board of Directors sees on projects and for funding, that our Citizens Advisory and Technical Advisory Committee both make recommendations to the Board of Directors.
They're able to take a look at the projects and take a look at the financing. Are we using our taxpayer dollars efficiently? Every year they tour and tour the facilities throughout the valley and get to see the results of all their hard efforts during the year, and they're a great complement to the Board of Directors. They're a needed citizen voice that we take very seriously, and they have played a critical role in creating this wonderful infrastructure.
So there's a lot of eyes that are looking at all this, and so by the time it gets to the Board of Directors, all the wrinkles should be ironed out.
Well, even today, it's difficult because the flood district becomes visible and very public when we have the storms and the floods, and especially in those areas that our facilities haven't reached. That's when we're profiled. 90% of the time when we have storms and the system's in place and it works, people just accept it as it's done. But it's still important, even with new residents coming in, to continually communicate the importance of our district, of our mission, the importance of getting the infrastructure in place to protect lives, to protect properties, educate our citizens. And we do that through our billboard program, a very popular program when the license plates get up and people participate. We have a wonderful outreach with our elementary schools and our middle schools to try to educate our young people the importance of flash flooding in the desert. So it's a message that can never be taken for granted. We constantly are out there in the public trying to educate, raise the awareness, and back it up with this master plan to put the infrastructure in place.
Coming up after the break, we'll continue with our visual annual report with a look at the different aspects of floodplain management. Stay right there.
I want to show you some pictures your parents probably wouldn't want you to see. Pictures of parents making big mistakes. Here's someone's dad doing something foolish. He's actually trying to drive through a flooded street. Here's another. And another. Every summer we get flash floods, and every summer the same thing happens. And hey, if all this water can do this to a car, imagine what it'd do to a kid. Look, don't be foolish. Flash floods kill. Tell your parents.
A reminder from the Clark County Regional Flood Control District.
Hi, I'm Michael Todd with the Regional Flood Control District, and you're watching the Flood Channel.
Welcome back to the Flood Channel. Over the years, you have probably seen or heard about the devastation caused by severe storms in our area. So what is the district doing to minimize the risk of flooding to our community? Carrie Ann brings us a story. To protect you and your family from flooding, the district carefully plans, designs, and implements flood control improvements. It all starts with our master plan, while also making sure that we meet local and national regulations in our comprehensive floodplain management program.
A master plan you need is your roadmap of where you're at and where you're going. Why do we have one? State law says we need one, but we would have one regardless of the state law. But it shows us where we assume development will occur and how dense that development will happen and what flood control infrastructure is needed to handle those flows and also get it through the urban area in a non-damaging manner. The master plan is our foundation. Everything spins off of that. How we build our, how we develop our capital improvement program, our 10-year capital improvement program, how we fund, what we fund, how the knee bone's connected to the leg bone, and it's a very sophisticated plan that shows how everything's connected and how everything flows and gets through this urban area in a very safe manner.
It's basically a document that we put together that includes engineering analyses. It identifies flooding issues in the valley or in the community, and it proposes facilities to mitigate those flooding problems, and it allows us to prioritize our projects in such a way that we can build them in a logical order and that they provide the most benefit for flood control to the community as we can.
State law requires us to update our master plan every 5 years. There are changes in technology, there are changes in how we estimate the cost of our facilities, and there may be changes in regulatory requirements. So every 5 years we get an opportunity to revisit the plan. Is this the best way to do things? Are we estimating what it's going to cost us to implement this in the future?
Other things more recently that has really thrown us a curveball is the density of the development on the perimeter of town. So instead of 8 to 10 units per acre, seeing 15 to 25 units per acre, the more impervious rooftops and pavement that you have, the more runoff you have, and the more that we have to make sure the system can handle that and safely pass it through town.
And the classic sense of floodplain management is, here's a raw piece of land with a flood hazard identified on it, and you want to modify the ground. You have to make sure that hazard's mitigated by some kind of feature or staying away from the flood hazard.
Floodplain management is making sure people develop in areas that are outside of harm's way and they elevate properly. Floodplain management is that once they do develop, they don't adversely impact the upstream or downstream property. Floodplain management is notifying those people if they're in a flood zone and that flood insurance is needed. Floodplain management is notifying other people that aren't in a flood zone that flood insurance is available, because that's the only way they're going to protect the loss of their property and their belongings.
We require that our participating communities, which are the communities in Clark County, adopt our design manual as the minimum standard, and it provides a even playing field, a uniform code, if you will, for development in flood-prone areas, for design of flood control features. We use that design criteria for our flood control features, and we expect developers and public works departments to use that as well.
Well, there's really two general approaches to flood control, to floodplain management. One's keeping people away from water, and the other's keeping water away from people. And I'm really involved in both of those. In terms of our capital improvement program, I'm the environmental mitigation manager. So I ensure that we follow all the rules for the environment, make sure we get all our permits, get all the clearances for the projects so that there aren't any delays or fines or anything like that. So we do the right thing, find out what our projects impact, provide the appropriate mitigation, and move forward to construction.
As any community grows, there are environmental impacts. We're involved with the implementation of our master plan, and so we are subject to federal requirements to make sure our environmental impacts are minimized to the fullest extent possible. As a community, as it grows and develops, there are impacts on stormwater quality. So the communities and the flood control district are involved with programs that limit the amount of pollutants that are discharged in stormwater and urban runoff.
The Clean Water Act, it's a federal law that's designed, it was written basically to prevent water pollution, to make sure that the waters of the nation, the waters that we drink, are safe to drink, safe to swim in, safe for the variety of animals that use them, fish and wildlife. The whole purpose of it is to ensure that people aren't dumping chemicals, doing harm to the nation's waters, and it's a good idea.
Clean Water Act is really far-reaching. I mean, it has to do with wastewater dischargers, industrial water dischargers, and non-point source dischargers. Now, those are big terms that mean they apply to our wastewater plants and how they allow treated flow to go into the Las Vegas wash. They deal with industrial plants and how their wastewater is allowed to be released into the environment. And then we are more involved with the stormwater regulation, and we give oversight and common programmed components such as public outreach and compliance reporting and stormwater monitoring and sampling.
We have to be flexible because the rules change. So in that sense, there's changes going on all the time. But at the same time, it's always been the district's policy to comply with all environmental regulations, be they local, state, or federal. So that has not changed. We've got a long history of working closely with the regulatory agencies to do the right thing and get the job done. There are a number of sites that we're building projects that are in close proximity to early man sites, places where primitive early man Indians hunted, lived. Other sites along the UPR Railroad, where railroad camps provide some information to archaeologists, anthropologists. Also, the camps that were constructed around Hoover for construction of Hoover Dam. If we impact those sites, we have to provide mitigation. And sometimes, I mean, mitigation means going out there and recovering, seeing what's out there and recovering as much information, as much knowledge as you can. To date, to my knowledge, we haven't lost one day of construction time because of environmental concerns. When we need to have people on site monitoring, we have them there. Another one of the programs that I'm involved with, and it's directly tied to floodplain management and keeping people away from the water, is our flood threat recognition system. We've got a network of probably 165, 170 sites now located throughout Clark County, many of them within the Las Vegas Valley, that monitor rainfall, water levels in the washes and at our detention basins, and general weather conditions. The system operates automatically in real time, and we make all of the data available on our website. It's a cooperative program with the National Weather Service. So we provide the equipment, we install, operate, maintain these the rain gauges throughout the valley, throughout Clark County. and those gauges report, like I say, automatically via radio telemetry to our offices and to the offices of the National Weather Service. So they're collecting all this real-time data on the existence and movements of large storms, so they can use that information to give much more specific flash flood warnings and watches, weather advisories to the local population. So it's a mission critical program that we have.
Many people wonder why in the desert, where we only have 15 rainy days per year, why do I need flood insurance? How likely is it that I'm going to get flooded if I'm in a flood zone? National statistics tell us that you have a 1 in 4 chance of being flooded throughout a 30-year mortgage. You're 27 times more likely to get flooded than you are to suffer a fire throughout that mortgage.
The reality is we'd all like to think that the government's going to step in and take care of us if there's a major disaster. If Las Vegas, if a big section of Las Vegas floods, we'd like to think that the government's going to step in and take care of us. It just isn't going to happen. And again, even if they do, it's probably going to be very limited resources, nowhere near what it's going to cost to repair or replace your home, and it's going to be a loan. You're going to have to pay it back. What people think of a lot of times is, well, I have to repair things. What they don't think of is that in a major flood, we're gutting the entire first floor of a house most times and starting from scratch.
If you're looking at a new home, there are a few things you can do to protect your interest in that home regarding flooding. You can go to our website and you can put the address into our website and find out if it's in a flood zone, or if it was in a flood zone, if it was removed from the flood zone. There are good reasons to get flood insurance even if you're not in a flood zone. You should look around your neighborhood. Are there small drainage ways that might have a gate at the end that could trap debris and cause floodwaters to pond up deeper than you might expect? Are you next to a major watercourse that maybe you even know the name of? If you know the name of the watercourse, it's a large one and it's going to carry a lot of floodwater in a flood event.
You have some options on flood insurance. Flood insurance covers, depending on how the policy is set up, it'll cover everything from repairing the building after a flood to cleaning up the debris. And sometimes that can be one of the worst things, just scraping out the mud and hauling all the damaged stuff away, to replacing your personal property. A lot of the policies that we write here for, say, the average $200,000 home with some personal property, you're looking between $250 and $450 a year for a basic flood policy. I think one of the things I would ask you is, assuming that we've quoted the flood insurance policy and we're talking about $35 or $40 a month, the question I would ask is, if you had to come up with $35 or $40 a month, whether you want to or not, if you had to, does it change your quality of life? If your house were completely destroyed and you had to spend $100,000 to repair it and you didn't have insurance to cover it, does that change your quality of life? Then why wouldn't you do it?
That's a look at our floodplain management program. After the break, we'll continue our visual annual report with a look at the latest construction project designed to protect you and your family from flash flooding. Stay right there. The Flood Channel will be right back.
See that clogged storm drain? Something like that, when it rains, will cause water to back up and flood our streets. Hello, Regional Flood Control District. I'd like to report a clogged storm drain. City and county employees are working hard to keep your storm drains clean. If you spot a clogged storm drain, call and report it.
Help protect the environment by keeping our drains and washes clean. Report clogged storm drains by calling 685-0000.
Hi, I'm Andrew Trelease with the Regional Flood Control District, and you're watching the Flood Channel.
Welcome back to the Flood Channel. Flash flooding in the desert can happen anytime and anywhere. It happens fast and it can be very unpredictable. Carrie Ann takes us to one of our latest construction projects to see how that fits into our flood control network. Every project the Flood District builds, like this one here at Rainbow and Elkhorn, is part of a master plan network of drainage improvements.
This is the Elkhorn storm drain system between Rainbow and Torrey Pines. It's part of an overall 5-mile system called the Las Vegas Wash Middle Branch. This project consists of about a half-mile of underground storm drain facility, approximately 13 by 9 double boxes or reinforced concrete boxes. It will collect water off of Elkhorn and direct it east to the Decatur and Beltway system, ultimately discharging to an existing channel at the Beltway. This facility is part of a 5-mile network of storm drain facilities consisting of detention basins, underground pipes, boxes, some channels, and once completed will provide the necessary protection for the citizens of Las Vegas. Well, we're proud of all our storm drain facilities we've constructed in the city of Las Vegas. They're all part of a major network of facilities that provide protection to our residents, removing them from flood zones, relieving them from flood impacts.
Well, my staff is responsible for the implementation of the capital improvement program at the Regional Flood Control District. We're responsible to complete designs of regional flood control facilities. We work with the different agencies, the public works agencies at each of the various entities, as well as the design consulting engineers to get these designs completed and get the construction started on the flood control facilities. The engineers basically work cradle to grave with each of the projects. We begin at the very early design stages of the project, and then they'll complete the drawings and specifications and get it ready for construction. Every project we build is part of a network. Each segment is part of a network, and it needs to be built in a logical order. We want to make sure that the facilities downstream are constructed so that the upstream facilities have a place to drain. We don't want to oversize facilities if we have a detention basin coming in upstream that's going to reduce those flows later. So we try to build all of our facilities in a logical order.
It's an exciting time here in the Valley when it comes to flood control and flood protection. We've constructed in the city of Las Vegas over $250 million worth of facilities, and we have another $250 million plus to go. We see a lot of relief from the improvements that we put in the ground, and the fact that we're removing residents from flood zones provides me with a lot of satisfaction.
Well, the